The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Tēnā koe te pika, tuatahi e tino mihi rawa atu ki a koe mō mahi hei whakawai I ngā taupatupatu o ngā kaitua rangapū. E tika ana me mihi atu ki ngā tini mate e rā o ngā tangata rongonui kua hipa atu ki tū o te ārai, tērā ki Apirana Mahuika, no Ngāti Porau, ki tērā o ngā tangata rongonui a Tamahuata rātou katoa e huri atu o te marama, o te wiki o nā nahi, haere, haere, haere atu rā. Mr Speaker, I just want to acknowledge that as this is my first speech in the House this year, it's an opportunity to say how delighted I am to be back in the House on the opposition benches, holding this government to account on the things that really matter. I listened very carefully to the Minister who spoke about jobs. Why is it then that in 2008, when unemployment was fewer than 100,000 people, there are now 46,000 more people, in addition to that, on the dole queue? Why is it? In the last quarter, 8,000 more people unemployed, and in our towns and rural communities and provinces, we've seen job losses, not job increases. Now, Labour's standing, I want to stand to support the amendment to the notice of motion that Andrew Little moved. And he made it really clear that Labour's here to represent people on the issues that matter to them in their communities and on the things that will make a real difference in their lives. Number one issue for Labour, jobs, 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 more jobs, not less jobs, like what the government's dishing out. Housing, warm, affordable homes, healthy homes for all people, no matter where they live, where home ownership is a real prospect. Cost of living issues, tackling those types of issues that really hold families back and down so that they can get better opportunities through a good public education, affordable health care. A regional economy that works for everyone, where people can see the benefit in their towns from Invercargill to Kaitaia, from Wanganui over to Te Puke and everywhere else in between. But more importantly, and I guess given the topic of today in question time, a country that we can be proud of both here and abroad. Mr Speaker, the political year hasn't started well for the government at all. State homes are being sold off. Overcrowding is occurring in many communities and Alfred Ngaro knows it. Home ownership is out of reach for many and Auckland members know that more than many of us. And more importantly, homelessness is becoming more visible on the streets in many of our cities where 5 years ago that wasn't the case. There's a by-election in Northland and public confidence in the government is wearing thin. The Sky City pokies deal has revealed to the public, who are now being asked to put their hands in their pocket, or were being asked to put their hands in their pocket to a tune of $100 million for a world-class convention centre that will be now significantly scaled back. Pokies for policy concessions. Labour doesn't support that. The government's position on good employment law means 0-hour contracts and unstable work conditions. That's what this government is standing for. And there's a growing gap between rich and poor where more kids are going to school without, in fact they're living without, and the government looks the other way. There's not enough teams working with the most vulnerable in our communities. Jacinda Ardern knows it, and I tell you what, the minister responsible is neglecting it. That's right. Mr Speaker, potentially sending troops to Iraq without a UN sanction to a live combat zone, all the while assuring the public that they will be behind the wire and what we heard today and not in combat roles, yet we can't rule out protective action, neglects the real worry that the public have on this particular issue. This is classic National. Reality defies the spin machine, but hey, let's stick with the spin. We're listening and talking to people from all walks of life about the issues that matter to them and will make a real difference in their lives. National would have some people believe that more people are employed, and we've just heard that. But what they really mean is that the jobs fairs are doing a fantastic job in bringing people back who are already in work to fill up roles where people who aren't working can't even fill. Where's the sense in that? Local people here could fill those roles. Labour believes that in reskilling and upskilling and investing in those, in that simple initiative will help more local people get the jobs that are available. Right. Don't cast your eye the other way. The group of people that I'm referring to are actually stuck. They're stuck on seasonal employment, temporary work, and they need better solutions, and they certainly don't need people being brought from offshore to fill the jobs that are in their communities. National doesn't have a long term to invest in a high-skilled, high-waged workforce. Labor does. Labor's Future of Work Commission will look towards regions, local government, community, business, iwi and education stakeholders, a whole range of groups, for sustainable solutions to crank up our regional economy, create jobs and better work for people that will be sustainable. And we're looking forward to that work program in the year ahead. You know what? Housing's in a shabby condition. The government said it wouldn't sell off state houses. Next minute, it sells off state homes. Right. Makes it hard for people to get the homes that are left, and home ownership has absolutely been out of reach. We're seeing increasing private market rentals, and what that's doing is increasing overcrowding. This is not a responsible solution in a country like ours. And social housing is just a myth under the national government. Right. This government's got housing badly wrong. Both local and central government need to play a role in social housing, and Labor believes that. You know, the government's plan for regional economic development kind of neglects places outside of Christchurch and Auckland. That's right. But let's just talk about Auckland for 1 minute, the Sky City deal, the Pokies for Policies deal. Stephen Joyce and the Prime Minister promised the public that they wouldn't be reaching into their own pockets for this world-class convention centre. Next minute, we hear, could cost 100 million. Well, you know what? Labor initiated a petition in a number of hours. A whole lot of names were collected, around about 28,000. And I'm pleased to see that the government is retracting and listening to where Labor had started. The public should not be funding a deal with Sky City for a world-class convention centre. A government subsidy on this is a no deal. Mr. Speaker, cost of living and growing inequality should be the motivation for any government in a country like ours. We pride ourselves in coming from New Zealand, but National doesn't want to set child poverty targets. Where's the sense in that? That would make its whole of government policy platform more accountable to outcomes for our most vulnerable, our children. Sadly, the government's 4 priorities that the Minister talked about fall short of measuring outcomes for children. I continue to implore the government to rethink this strategy. Things could be better, and you know what, under Labor it will, and I'm confident in saying that. Mr. Speaker, this political term started with the annual pilgrimage of politicians to Ratana and Waitangi. Māori have put this government on notice and set a challenge to Labor that in time I am confident we will rise to meet. Māori are saying that new thinking to old solutions are required. The country needs bold leadership to move beyond past hurts and resist scratching old wounds, like the sovereignty debate. The symbols of our identity, the treaty, a flag, our culture, language and identity, no longer exist in a vacuum. Ask your Scottish grandson who's got Māori heritage that can do a karakia in their classroom. A more equal society is a fair one. Māori understand that. Māori are no longer benefactors of a benevolent policies churned out from government, but we want to be active determiners of our future in a new economy and determining what social responsibility can look like. The thinking amongst many iwi and Māori have reached a new maturity. And no matter how hard a national government might try to outsource this thinking in its relationships with other parties, it must be embedded in the political consciousness of its own party. Labor has that. We will grow that. I'm hopeful that we will meet the challenge that Māori have set. Kia ora koutou.
Very good speech.
The Honourable Dr. Jonathan Coleman.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if anyone's still awake out there after Nanaia